My boyfriend told me that his best friend is the most important person in his life and he won't marry because of him. I think he is definitely in love with him. My boyfriend Andrew and I have been dating for 2 years. One of the main problems I have with him is that he's attached, to an obsessive degree if I'm being honest, to his best friend Eddie. I'd even describe their friendship as Eddie being completely dependent on Andrew like a needy child would be. This is a problem because Eddie and I don't get along. He's always been hostile to me since the day we met for no reason, and I'm not the type of person who takes poop from anyone, so of course, I am equally hostile back. I'm also certain that Eddie is in love with Andrew. He can never keep a relationship for long, but anyone he dates is a carbon copy of Andrew regarding looks. He's also constantly touching Andrew whenever they're together, often kicking me off from my seat next to him so he can sit there. It's rude to be so blatant about your feelings for a taken man, but I guess Andrew is willfully oblivious. Anyway, after a hard few weeks of work, I finally got a break and wanted to veg at home. But no, Andrew wanted to take me out, to the beach specifically, in order to celebrate. I hate the beach yet he still took me. So already, I was a bit pissed, but then it got worse when he told me that he had to keep his phone on because Eddie was meeting up with some guy he met online, and Andrew was scared the guy was bad news. I was shocked. Eddie's a grown man. He can care for himself, but I told myself I'd be reasonable. That was a big mistake because, sure enough, 2 hours in, guess who calls? None other than Eddie begging Andrew to come and get him because he's scared for his safety. I saw red. Somehow, a grown adult can't get home by himself and has to wait for my boyfriend to get him despite said boyfriend being 30 minutes away. He could have called an Uber or asked the staff at the bar for help, but instead, he decided to ruin our date. I cussed my boyfriend out, but he gave no SHTS and dropped everything to go to him, leaving me stranded with no ride at a beach I didn't want to be at. He ran to the car and dipped while I raged at him. He didn't let me go because he didn't want to stress Eddie out more since he knew we didn't like each other. I've decided to block him, and he can make a grand gesture to win me back, or I'm done. Still, I'm not sure what to do. Even if he does take me back, how can I know he won't do this again? At the same time, besides his weird friendship with Eddie, he's the perfect boyfriend. Update, though I blocked Andrew, we shared some friends, and they told me he desperately wanted to contact me, but he would respect my wishes if I said no. I decided I would hear him out. I reasoned, he's done wrong, but if he sets boundaries with Eddie and reaffirms his commitment to the relationship, we can work through it. If not, we are done. I felt it would be childish to ghost him without having an adult discussion about our relationship. We met up, and he looked nervous when he's normally self-assured, so this immediately ticked me off as if something was wrong. I started by telling him that I was unhappy. He constantly chose Eddie over me and didn't care about my feelings. Admittedly, I haven't been the best communicator myself. Instead, I have reverted to anger, so I apologize. He swore he didn't know that I don't like the beach, and if he had known, he wouldn't have suggested we go, so there's that. I said we could still make this work if we both were willing to put in the effort, and he asked Eddie what's appropriate for a friendship. Well, that isn't going to happen. He told me he was so sorry that he had led me on for 2 years but couldn't, in good conscience, stay in a relationship with me any longer when Eddie still needed him. Despite the writing being on the wall, I wanted to confirm whether he was in love with Eddie. The answer is complicated. For context, Andrew is an extremely helpful guy who is willing to give you the shirt off his back if you need it. This is especially apparent with Eddie. I had a suspicion that Eddie has some sort of mental illness, but I didn't know the extent until Andrew shared that Eddie's very depressed and has attempted in the past. Andrew stopped him before it got to that point, and Andrew's felt this obsessive need to protect and care for him since. In Andrew's words, Eddie is very fragile and needs him. He swears up and down that nothing romantic has ever happened with them, whether kissing or anything more, which I believe. Still, Eddie is the most important person in his life and will always be according to him. When we got into a relationship, he had convinced himself that he could have 2 most important people, but that isn't the case, and he only just realized now, 2 years down the line. I asked him what would happen if he wanted his own family, and he said that he wouldn't marry anyone or have kids because it wouldn't be fair to anyone involved, despite saying how much he wanted a family in the past. I suppose that was a lie, or maybe he only wants a family with Eddie, I don't know. So yeah, Andrew is so obsessed with Eddie that he's sacrificing the chance to have a family. And to answer whether he is in love with Eddie, he says he is straight, but he's never felt anything like when he's around Eddie, though now that I write this, I think it could be because they have a codependent relationship. I'm not fully convinced he's in love with Eddie in a romantic way, but rather, he loves Eddie so much that he will do anything for him. Then again, I might be wrong. This is super unhealthy to me, but it's not my problem anymore. He told me he was sorry and hated that he did this to me. He seemed genuinely torn up about it, too, but that's not changing the fact that 2 years of my life were wasted. I'm a 32-year-old woman who dreams of having a huge family, yet I don't have a partner, and I'm in no shape to get one anytime soon. Sure, I'm still relatively young, but time is ticking. He promised he'd set me up with someone as if that would make up for this. I doubt he'll do it anyway since all he cares about is Eddie, or at least that's what it looks like.